It's 2021. Welcome to Control Talk, now your smart buildings videocast and podcast for the week ending sometime in the first week in January. January what, Kenny? What?
January 10th there. Come on.
January 10th. What am I thinking? This is episode 387, folks. We're in a new year. Hopefully a new vibe. Hopefully it's the darkness before the dawn as we proceed with this year. This is the first episode of 2021. And as usual, you and I are joined by my co-host and yours, the man, the myth, the legend, the ever non-changing but always changing, the malleable yet solid, Kenny Smyers, the control man and thought leader and doyen from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, welcome to the show. It's 2021 and we're still here, big dog.
Wow, that was special. Thank you, Eric, and thank you for inviting me to the show. You're right. It's been an interesting journey. We keep talking about COVID, and how it's accelerated certain things. It's changed our culture, literally. And people don't handshake. It's like me kissing the relatives like they used to give a hug. Everybody should be concerned now about who's got what, when, and where. And did you get immunized? Did you? So the world has gotten interesting, but as we're going to talk about in the show, it's in a good way. I mean, we've got to move forward. Got to get past certain things that are going on. It's loud, ugly, and it's cold here in Pittsburgh. But I think the rally points are clear. I think everybody that we associate with, and everybody in our industry is we're going to find out. We're on an 8% growth rate in the industry, which means that it's pretty solid if you could say that despite these COVID setbacks that a lot of people in the world have experienced, and God love them, they're pressing on, and in Pennsylvania we're finally lifting the barriers. We can socialize according to the standards that are out for now. But we had shelter in place, and you weren't supposed to move around until January 4th. But even in the upcoming football game, you got one team that can let 15,000 people into their stadium. Next stadium can only have 2,500. And it's just so you just got to deal with it. There's no rhyme or reason.
There's no rhyme or reason, man. It's you're absolutely right about that. And my question for you on the list.
What's that? What list?
Oh, Elon Musk just surpassed Jeff Bezos as the richest man in the world.
$180 billion.
And I'm on the list. I'm on the list to get the brain chip. I want his brain chip that he's going to start before even I get the COVID vaccination, because I figure if you get the brain chip, you'll figure out how not to get COVID. So, Elon, I want the brain chip.
I'm gonna wait in line, just get my shot, get immunized, and no, I'll tell you what this. It's a spectacular thing, and the crazy thing about Elon recently is he said that he could get into the residential thermostat world and make a change there. So I hope he takes his time before he starts to really unravel what's going on in that world, because I got a feeling that he's got the deep pockets and the deep mindset to really work things out. And he's got a very selfish agenda because he wants battery.
Well, but it makes sense. And I don't know whether you've seen or not. And by the way, Elon, not only do I want a chip, but if you do come in our industry, sign me up, right? We're on. And I keep trying to get him to come on the show and I tell him about our
he's a busy guy,
fabulous audience. But have you seen the solar roof thing he's got?
Yeah.
It's spectacular. We talked about when he came out with the energy wall, right? Because one of the challenges with batteries is unable to sort of store the battery power from solar. So he's got that piece in place. Now I understand it's like a relative or something that actually started that company and he brought it in under the solar thing. But I think we're going to see, Obama was very, not to get political too much, but when Obama was in office, it was good for our industry because there were a lot of green initiatives. I think some of that went away under Trump, and, Biden has promised to be, energy efficient again. So I think it's going to be good for our industry, not only in terms of making the building safer, Kenny, but also I think we're going to see a resurgence to things like solar, energy saving and things like that, which would bode well for our industry and our contractors.
Well, yeah, but just real quick, this came out in June 2020. Elon Musk is attempting to revolutionize HVAC systems, looking at cutting edge developments of the HVAC industry. And this is an interview that was published on the news, January 20th. So I think that's that is going to be very interesting because again, if you can connect all the dots there, and get the solar things like you're saying, and then put a battery in there, the energy wall, and then you can become energy self-reliant and you can sell energy to the grid. Basically, it's extraordinary things ahead. Yeah.
But for such a smart guy, he made such a blunder there. I mean, the reason we haven't heard more about it is he went to the wrong news source. If he'd just come through us with that and done an interview with us, he'd be well on his way. I mean, to hell with the Wall Street Journal, right? Control Trends is where you want to be. But but that being said, buddy, had a couple good posts. Our friend Mark Peacock is as always insightful. We posted something he had to say on the site. Tell us, our audience, a little bit about that, if you would. Mark Peacock.
Yeah, well, Mark's a prolific writer. He's an editor, a contributing editor to Automated Buildings, as Ken Sinclair will tell us later.
And not only is he contributing there, he's an editor for Control Trends, right? We're going to promote him if you like his stuff.
And he keeps busy. He's got he's in charge of the marketing. He has an interesting name. He's the Chief Marketing and Communication Officer at Linkspring. But Mark is really he's cool. He's got the beginning of another year is upon us, and I think we can all agree that this year is ending with all of us experiencing pandemic fatigue, which means it's time for, you guessed it, the thoughts of what lies ahead. So Mark Peacock, his article that he contributed to Automated Buildings and
Control Trends.
Yeah, in Control Trends, he goes, so what is in store for the built environment in 2021? So he's did a great job here. He talks about recovery and execution mode, trust, pandemic prevention, keywords, hybrid, IP-enabled devices, understanding risk, safety and wellness, and cybersecurity. But it's a great article. It's called II Captain, and we'll have it on the, we posted it already, but we'll have another link in this Control Talk now. And as you said, Eric, the numbers keep going up. 387. We're coming up on 3 million hits on Control Trends, 3 million visits.
Oh, I thought you're my COVID cases.
No.
Help us stay ahead of the number of COVID cases. Go to Control Trends and give us a hit or a like or whatever, right?
Well, it's frigid cold up here. It's I think 21 degrees this morning, and I just really don't do well with cold weather in winter, but to survive. What's it like down here in Atlanta?
It's cold and rainy and not much fun. And Kenny, I think something else we need to mention real quick before we bring our guest on is, and I thought we mentioned this before, maybe we haven't, because people are asking about the Control Trends Awards, and regretfully, I think Kenny and I've decided we need to follow the path of AHR. And so there will not be a Control Trends Awards this year. We're thinking about trying to do something a little special that week. But to all the people that are asking and wanting to give us money to be sponsors, we appreciate that. Save your money for next year in Las Vegas. We will have a huge celebration when this is behind us. But, after a lot of careful thought, we thought about maybe trying to do it virtually or something like that. I just think it doesn't do it justice. So bear with us. We will be back, God willing. And any comments on that, Kenny?
Yeah, we have mentioned it because of the just the issues that caused so many people to cancel. And when HR, that's the big North Star in our industry, and a lot of agencies and a lot of people, a lot of the big vendors, they have all their big yearly meetings in conjunction with the AHR show, because if you're there and everybody, it's just a great conglomeration of people. A lot happens. And Control Trends was a we always enjoyed a great relationship with these folks, and we recognize them, of course, a couple of times in our show with awards for what they've done to the industry. But I think it's impossible to overdo what's being done here in the social presentations that we're seeing here, the Zoom calls. I heard a guy, we watched a great webinar, a great presentation, a lot of money being spent to try to please people digitally. And they just said, well, just another Zoom call, so people are just, they're bearing with the situation, and they're zooming themselves to a point of fatigue that is going to be unforgettable.
Well, and listen too, if you haven't seen as much content coming out of Control Trends, over the last, 4 or 5 months, it's by design. And, Kenny and I are very cognizant of the fact that we're all being so inundated with Zoom and information. So, basically Kenny and I just made a conscious decision, unless, we've got something new to report or something useful, we're not just going to be putting stuff up to put stuff up. For us right now, it's more about, the people that support us, maintaining sanity, right? So we'll continue to do the Control Trends show when we have something, interesting to say. But, instead of being, consistent and just putting stuff up to make sure we put stuff up, if it's not relevant or we don't think it's going to be useful, we're sort of backing away a little bit to be respectful of our audience. It's not that we don't care, but when we have useful stuff to say, we'll be the first in line to do it. But we're not just going to be another one of these, groups that's just putting stuff up to put stuff up.
Yeah, the word you said, inundated, is a very accurate way. And I think too that there are events coming up. So to your point, and we'll probably be talking about further on the show here, is that where there's a good reason to bring people together. I think again, if you could bring learning, something event, that promotes something important, so that when you spend time on that meeting, or donate your goodwill and time to listen in, they want something in return for that, not just another repetition, not another restatement of the same thing they've heard on every damn channel.
Well, yeah, and as you think about it, our motto since the beginning has been control trends, control news you can use. So we want to try and be as loyal to that as we can. But speaking of that, talking about a guy who always has useful information and somebody that, we have a lot of respect for is our guest this week. So how about introducing him, Kenny?
I'd love to. On episode 387, we have Mr. Ken Sinclair, owner, editor, publisher of AutomatedBuildings.com. Ken's January edition of Automated Buildings is very interesting. It's got a whole dense content of very important information, kind of summarizes some of the woes of our COVID period. And now we're going to look forward already to February in the edition coming up. But welcome to the show, Ken. Always great to have you.
Welcome, Ken.
Thank you very much. Always great to be here.
Well, let's start out, man. How are things in Canada with this fine new year, 2021? What's new in Canada?
Well, we're fighting the virus. We're probably not going to be as quick as you guys at getting it implemented. I saw that some Canadians in Florida got inoculated before they did in Canada, so that was pretty interesting. We're just having a bit of a resurge, especially in Eastern Canada. So we're still kind of locked down, but doing okay. I think we can see the other side of it. So doing okay.
Well, let's hope there's a saying, it's always darkest before the dawn. And I'm sure hoping that's the case, globally here as well as in the US. And I kind of asked that question because I think anything we talk about has to have a COVID-19 component to it, because it seems like it's affecting everything. Fair statement?
Well, absolutely.
Well, yeah, of course, my article says that we've been COVIDized, ever how you pronounce that word. And that's actually a word now. And it is the process of what the virus has done to our industry and to our lives, and it's reflected in everything. So yes, I do believe that, and I do believe moving forward we're always going to be a hybrid of that. And my next theme that I'll chat about a little bit later is Together Apart, which is kind of our new mandate. I believe that this is how we're going to move ahead, as we have moved, as we basically have innovated through the last year. So yeah, interesting times, and it's changing culture, it's changing everything. And it also is pointing, I think this is going to be a trigger point to the movement towards the handing of the guard from the old guard to the new guard. Maybe not so much the handing, but at least the melding of the old knowledge to the new knowledge. And that happened a lot last year, just out of, and that's what I was trying to pull with my theme, out of innovation, was out of the innovation of just surviving 2020. We learned a lot of stuff. We touched a lot of people. We used a lot of virtual media. We actually started doing a lot of stuff that we were actually just talking about. So more than anything, COVID became an accelerator for us to move on. The other thing it did is it greatly threw the focus on the younger people and their knowledge of how working together apart might happen, because they basically were doing that already. And when they couldn't go to their universities, and they had time on their hands, and they got involved, I think, in the process of helping us put together some of our video productions, the whole idea of moving information over, training. Quickly, we recognized all the things they don't know, although they have an amazing knowledge of things they do know in how all of this infrastructure works. They don't know our industry, and our industry is complex and unattractive as presented. So we have to kind of fluff our presentation of it.
Well, hang on. I want to hop in here for a second, because you're saying a lot, as you always do, and you move at a really great clip, which is great. But I don't know if you know it or not. But, Kenny's third cousin on his mother's side, Paul McCartney Smyers. He wrote a song with the Beatles called "You Say Hello, I Say Goodbye," and he's working on a new song now with Kenny's help called "You Say Together, I Say Apart." And let's talk a little bit more about specifically, because, Kenny, I want you to chime in too, because even though it logically makes so much sense for us to be able to work apart, and as a matter of fact, it's been a necessity over the last year or so, there've been studies, and I don't know whether, how accurate they are, that, there's some people that just don't function well, not being, in a group environment. And there's all kinds of studies now about creativity being sort of loosened when you're apart. So let's talk about the pros and cons of together and the pros and cons of apart. And, Ken, so how do you sort of see that? I mean, we've obviously had to work apart, but do you see a migration back into the office when this thing gets under control?
It's always trouble when there's two Kens on the show, because that's a really good, question. Absolutely, Eric. We're getting metrics in weekly from the various people that really follow things, because it's so important to their nature. Jones Lang, LaSalle, Cushman Wakefield, they publish these things, to tell the market, what they're putting a finger on a trend and what people want to see. And already you're seeing some metrics where there's FOMO, feeling of missing out. Is the primary thing. Young people enjoyed the immediacy of working from home, because it gave them so many interesting aspects to do their work at their own kind of pace. But the mentorship that Ken was talking about requires meetings of the minds, and the socialization. The human being construct is to be social, and you can socialize to a certain extent digitally, but then it obviously it's going to be there's a barrier there, and many people function better in the company of other people, where they feel that they're all collaborating and they're all moving together in the same direction. Morale, it gives you additional energies. There's magic stuff there, dust or pixie dust that happens in the office that doesn't happen at home.
Well, yeah, and I like that, but I'm wondering if that's an us thing, meaning the baby boomers, our generation.
No, they specifically pointed out the young people as they're doing surveys. They're getting
right.
feedback.
No, I understand. Okay, I got you. But I was going to ask our resident millennial here, since he's the youngest one at heart here, Ken Sinclair. Ken, I mean, how much of that you think is accurate with millennials? I mean, I tend to believe that, but I kind of feel like maybe they're just hoping we will just all go away.
Yeah, actually, the joke is in their circle is it's every once in a while you hear this boomers, and they all just sort of shake their heads, and like that explains what's going on. This is the boomer thing. This isn't their world. But I think what is happening is certainly what Ken said is absolutely true. We are social beings, and we need to be back in our social circles. And the big problem is we need to touch and hug each other, which is so awkward when we go back into our social circles that we can't do that. Like just even the fact of shaking hands and stuff. And actually, the amount of people I normally embrace at AHR Expo is totally amazing. Totally amazing to me too, because I'm not that kind of a guy. But somehow I haven't seen somebody for a year. It's like, hey, wow, how you doing? Anyway, so that social touchy-feely thing is still not allowed, and that's complicating things. So I think what we're into right now is this basically this hybrid COVIDized mode that we're going to be for the next little while. The other thing that seems to be evolving out of that is that the social side of our industry is moving closer to us in our local community. So what we're starting to see is buildings repurposed. You're starting to see hotels repurposed into living accommodation. You're starting to see shopping malls repurposed into old age homes. It's good news for our industry because it's major retrofits. There's going to be a lot of control work to straighten that out. So I love our industry. After being in our industry for 50 years, I have never seen an industry that is absolutely so bulletproof. No matter what happens in the world, our industry survives and does extremely well. And that's what the forecasts are, is that our industry is, on the Monday Alive function, we basically started that looking at how COVID was changing and what we had to do to survive, get people back into the buildings. And we've actually refocused that, just looking at how do we make buildings healthier? How do we deal with the repurposing, all of those complications? And one of the things that's come out of that is, where do we get the new people for our industry? Because our industry, I think Mark had thrown some figures out at the last meeting of our industry is facing about an 8% growth in total volume. So, and this is, on either the IT or the automation side, every time people, they kind of get scared that, all of this stuff is going to happen, but no matter how it happens, somebody has to go out there and put a device in or reconfigure how it's going to do, or actually if there is data there that they can pick up. So there's a whole piece there. So what we're looking at is we're trying to figure out how best to attract people, how to pull them into the industry. So we're actually picking up some stuff actually, which led me to your site, and I was back trying to find out some of our Young Guns program, because we were early to that. We had Young Energy. Before that, we, our both automated buildings and Control Trends have kind of worked at how do we get people into the industry. But I think that's become a greater need right now. So I think trying to pull that together. I know you've got your Young Guns podcast. I'm not sure where that's gone. I haven't had the time to keep following that as well, but I'm so
the problem is that the young guns grow up to be middle-aged guns, and they lose their young gun spunk. No, I get what you're saying, but you say the word acceleration. I think you're so right. And also, you had this beautiful definition. I want to read this real quick because I don't think people understand. You're saying that COVIDized and COVIDization. You said the COVIDization of 2020 is created, injected, extracted, but most simply accelerated many new relationships that allow us to connect and disconnect quickly, remotely, while eliminating the physical travel. I mean, that's a lot of really good information consolidated in there, but is it working? Are we getting, like you said, you think we got to attract the game engineering community, the software people that write stuff for entertainment and stuff. These are the people, the minds we need, because they already have an accomplished background in networking and communications. Then we take, they can learn the building automation world or physical things about building, compressors and not forget the compressors. Listen to that, chillers, the AHUs, the rooftop units, and everything like that. The equipment associated with our industry can be really masterfully controlled now by digital hands.
Yeah, I know, Kenny, well said. And Otto, Ken Sinclair, I mean, obviously we've talked about trying to attract people to the industry. Have you gotten any clarity on what is actually working in attracting some of these people into our industry?
Great question.
I think what we're basically looking at is who we have to compete with to get these people is the Amazons, the Googles. So we have to make our industry as exciting and as interesting. And now we're seeing Google and Amazon moving in, and they're poaching our people, our key people. So that's another concern. The changes are occurring. How can it be best said? I think we just have to keep educating the industry or to these newcomers, and that's what we've done. We've started a mentor group building Monday Alive And we pulled together some of the old sages from the industry, and we made ourselves available to universities. But the trouble is the question is, even the university is under question. The whole social side, the reason to go to a university was to get connected to like minds, and maybe you'll marry well. But now with COVID and residents being closed down, there's still a lot of bumping and grinding there. Everybody finished up their year virtually, and they found they could do that. Then the whole thing that starts to cross one's mind is, do I want to go pay this incredible price to go to this incredible university, or do I want to actually cherry pick the best programs and do this virtually, and basically work with a local social group that has some of that stuff. So we're starting to see some shift, I think, in how this is all going to get done.
Well, I want to hop in for a minute, because you're saying a lot, and I think the deal, as near as I can tell, and I'm not the most socially savvy guy in the world, Ken, but it's like the younger people are not on Facebook anymore. They're not on LinkedIn. I mean, the next generation, they're all on Instagram and stuff like that. So it's almost like, and I've called for this before, and I think as an industry, what we're probably going to have to do is pull everybody together, all the major manufacturers and distributors and everybody else. And I think we've got to go out and possibly hire some social influencers that on, Instagram and stuff like that, and have them promote the industry. Because what, I think part of the challenge is they're not going to listen to us. And, and Brad White, he's not even a millennial anymore. I mean, right. He's too old. They're not going to listen to him. So it's almost like you're going to have to incentivize some, 22-year-old Instagrammer that's got 40,000 followers, probably about 10 of those, and have them talking about what a great industry it is. And I don't think it can be a one-off. I mean, I don't think this is something that, like, for example, a Honeywell can do on their own, or a Johnson can do on their own, or a Distech can do on their own. I think there's got to be a collaboratorium, for lack of a better term, or a task force where the people come together and we all kick in, we get a budget. And the deal is we promote the sexiness and the coolness of our industry, but it's not going to be through the channels we're doing it with now, I don't think. You guys agree or disagree?
That's pretty much the exact same conclusion we came to at Monday Alive. And so what we saw is actually the title of the folks that are supporting it, we're called mentors and influencers, because we saw that term has to be applied. And you probably haven't noticed it, but you now are an influencer now as well. What you basically talk about and how you see this industry going, people listen to you. That you may partially agree with you, or totally agree with you, or not agree with you, but you are an influencer. The fact that they're listening to what it is you're saying. So yeah, we are that. We need to learn. The problem is, I don't think you can just hand this off to the young folks. I've been struggling, as you all know, with social media for like the last 10 years, and it behooves me, but I'm starting to figure out a little bit how it moves, but I cannot move at the speed that the kids move, but I can see what they're doing and how they're influencing. And there are all these new networks, and I think what we need to do is we need to understand better how these software companies are creating themselves so quickly, and how they can create themselves even inside of the large landscape of Google, Amazon, and others, that they can find little niches, and they can all band together basically virtually and create amazing companies. The one that I'm watching is the one my youngest daughter works for. Is Shopify, is a company that basically gives you a shop and does all your commerce and stuff, and you decide what it is you want to sell. So you just basically, you take a picture of what it is you want to sell, tell us where you get it, and put it on a website, and you pay for the service, and all of a sudden you're in business, and you all your problems, and they even help you with your promotion. And actually, that's another big piece of Shopify is that they actually hand you. So that it's kind of a full service deal. All of it is virtual. All of the people are virtual. There's virtually no head office of such. 8,000 people kind of working. It's been a Canadian success kind of thing. So just watching that and watching how they do that is incredibly intriguing to me. So I think
I think you're spot on. And of course, the thing I don't like about Shopify is their motto is let's turn boomers into doomers. And I think that's a lot of what goes on. It's difficult for me, and I think I'm a pretty open-minded guy, to wrap my mind around all this virtual stuff. I still want to talk to somebody, and the world as we know it is changing. And Ken, I think the other thing that, and I'm going to say this, it sounds a little bit silly, but it's like, if you're hunting, I've never hunted before, but I understand if you're hunting a bird or something, you don't shoot where the bird is. You got to shoot where the bird's going. You have to lead it, so to speak. And sort of using that analogy where we're at now, it's almost like it's changing so fast that we need to probably be talking to middle schoolers now to get their opinion on where we need to, how we need to do this. I'm being a bit facetious, but at the same time, it's changing so fast. And of course, the thing that happens is it changes. And by the time it gets traction, meaning something like an Instagram or TikTok or something like that, by the time it actually gets traction, it's almost too late to get in on it, right? If you're going to be perceived as being a leader in a place. And that's where I think the Googles and the Amazons have an advantage, is they get out in front of this and in many ways facilitate these platforms that they're using. So they sort of have an inside track, if you will. But I think it's the challenge of our industry for the next decade is, how are we going to compete for talent?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, there's a couple of things I'd like to throw in, just chiming in here, but there's like a Churn and Learn program that, Ken, given the program you started way back when, and our Young Guns program, and, everything that I think there's a lot of movers in the industries, all the big vendors, everybody's got to push, but, I think it really is catching on. The government understands that it needs to do its part to identify that HVAC and building automation deserve, their codes and their professional career, job descriptions in a federal sense, because Eric and I have met many people that have their own initiatives, but I think the schools now really have begun to adopt a technical side of reality that, people need to be trained on equipment. They understand how, the basic physics and there's going to be, and it's just certain amount of people attracted to it, but, the hard part, I think it is the intersection of that form of education and hands-on, on-the-job training, understanding how things work, and then intersect that with, the fabulous world that you guys just describing, where it's all done through, virtual contacts and linking people up, and everybody carries the ball a little part of the way down the field. But I still think that we're going to what happened to the great companies like B&B, was a fabulous. I used to advertise, who has the greatest number of hotels or rooms in the world? B&B. Now poor B&B, so 98% closed. So there's got to always be that structural built there. There's got to be, what if you lose power? What if COVID happens again? Another version of it. So I really like to emphasize that when we place always the spotlight on the glamorous side of it, there's still a part of it that's basic nature stuff that you gotta learn how things work and do, and I think that has to be part of the educational processes. I didn't mean to take us off.
I love it, Kenny. I love it. But listen, our motto is be bold and stay in control, right? So I'm going to do something bold right here now. Ken Sinclair, I'm going to call you out. Kenny Smyers, I'm going to call you out. What do you say the three of us spearhead? Okay. And we need sponsors. So we'll put this out and the manufacturers come to us. We put together a task force led by Ken Sinclair, myself, and Kenny Smyers, and we will go create a social initiative where we find the Instagrammers and we get them to promote the industry. And the whole purpose of this task force would be, because we keep calling for, we need to come together as an industry and, invest some time and invest some money. What if the three of us come together and say, hey, pay us, we'll go out, we'll start driving people. We will make our industry cool and sexy. As Kenny Smyers used to say, we know we will have arrived when, a young man or young lady walks into a bar and goes to goes up to somebody of the opposite sex, and there's a rock star there, there's a politician, there's an investment banker, there's somebody with a Ferrari, and then the person says, what do you do? Go, I'm in the building automation controls business, and that's the one they want to be with. we will have arrived when we can accomplish that. What do you guys say? Should we put that out there that we're willing to take it on if people pay us and we can get a group together?
I think that's a pretty big task. The thing I wanted to point out there when you were in just a little while back is that one of the things that is complicating all of our thought patterns, our boomer thought patterns, is we tend to, when we think boomer style, we think of how things were. So when we think of the education system, we think of how the education system was, not the way it is now. Because what happened in COVID is the education system underwent the exact same change we're talking about, whereas the old school people who were basically getting everybody to come to school and making sure that they were having that FaceTime. All of a sudden with COVID, it had to go to being virtual, and they too had no clue how to do that. So the younger teachers basically became way more valuable as they put together their YouTubes and had their sessions. The whole school system got reorganized, where it used to be kind of a school kind of a thing. All of a sudden, somebody wrote a great YouTube class on math. So they did it from a school district point of view rather than a school point of view. And they started seeing efficiencies in there. So what it is every model you touch is basically remorphing, and they're having the exact same discussions we're having. Is like, how do we pull this all together? So I think that makes it really complicated. And that again, when we go to, it's not just a matter of getting more hits, as it were. There's certainly, you can get more hits on Google than you can on automated buildings. But the only weird thing about automated buildings is that the people that read automated buildings are somehow connected to the industry. And so they understand when you actually post something, what the value of that product might be. So it's trying to get between the numbers and trying to get to the right people is a complicated task as well. And it's even more complicated now that this is all changing. But anyway, your throwing of the gauntlet is a good one. Could I suggest that we start that with our collaboratory, which you guys have always supported us greatly on, the Connective Community Collaboratory. We put that together. Normally we would be doing that at AHR Expo. This year we obviously can't do that because Chicago's been canceled. It's been postponed to Las Vegas. I would like to go ahead and virtually do that. If you guys have the appetite to put it together, let's start with that. And right away we have a cluster of people and we can start that discussion that you just asked for.
Done.
Right now.
Done. We'll do it, Ken. We will live stream it on all social media platforms, including Instagram and TikTok. We'll have to stitch those together, but we're totally on board with that, Ken. And I think it's very timely, and you have 100% support from us.
Okay, now great. I think that was a great question, the way you framed that when we started into that. And I'm normally the mediator of the collaboratory, but it'd be good for you to basically keep it, maybe keep it as it's your show kind of thing. It's being published by Control Trends, so obviously you should have control over it. And to just ask those kind of questions and say, I have a question I want to ask the collaboratory. And I think that allows us to kind of, maybe have a little different dialogue for this year. So that would be kind of fun. So let's see where that goes. It'd be an hour out of all our lives, and we can basically see if we can actually put together something useful. But it's the kind of thing that we are talking about on Monday Alive, and several of us have identified ourselves as mentor influencers. And I think that would be an interesting thing to explore. The conclusion we've come to is we need younger people. And actually, I throw that gauntlet back at you, is you need younger people. You got to stop talking to me. You got to, and go talk to somebody younger. We've actually got James Dice coming on our Monday
Nice.
This Monday. So I'm looking forward to that. And I have been following what Nicholas has done I post something on social media and I get, 400 or 500 views, which I'm happy with. Nicholas Point put something on there and he's into the 3,000s and 4,000s. And the other thing that's happening is this whole global reach as soon as you move into social media, you're no longer talking to North America or Canada, you're talking to the world. And all of a sudden, then you get completely different opinions. And some of these opinions are pretty interesting. And the only common thing we've all got is we're all fighting COVID. So that's a common ground. Is how are you guys dealing with that? And
well, Ken, listen real quick. And, Kenny, I'm assuming you're 100% on board with this too. But
Sure. Yeah. Well, to Ken's point about we learned from the control trends where you put something on the internet, you never know who's going to read it and where it comes from. And we had the good fortune and experience to have over 100 countries, get involved with the control trends, back when it was rolling. But yeah, it was an extraordinary experience to realize that, again, the common denominator, our common currency was buildings, moving air and water through buildings as efficiently as possible. And then it shifted to comfort and then shifted to productivity, but it did it globally. It was like we're all in the same, sheet of music, to speak, say that, whatever benefits Europe was doing, we would learn them very quickly in North America. If we came up with innovation that, was a successful, it would be around the world, in months instead of years and whatever, remember the days when people made stuff for different markets, and they didn't fit, companies had 7 different divisions: the Eastern Asian division, the North American division, the South American division, and they built and made things that were for that specific part of the world. And now, it's amazing how it's the universality of many of our technologies. It's kind of cool to see. Well, I have a terrible habit of every building I walk into, I walk past the thermostat or the sensor, and just out of curiosity, see what system is in the It's amazing how around the world they all look the same. They're all very, very similar.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Well, Kenny, where I was kind of go with this, because Control Trends Awards is sort of taking the path that AHR has, and as we've stated, and and unfortunately, none of us are going to go to that meeting. Ken Sinclair, back to you. As normally you do 8 or 9 meetings at AHR. Do you want to do any other meetings outside of just the collaboratory? Because we could do a little mini AHR. Automated buildings, controls type summit if you wanted to.
Yeah, I would like, if let's go with the collaboratory first, and I'll see what support I can get from the originals on that. The other one I would like to do is to involve the young guns, the young energy, the young guns, and my young editors, which as Ken Smyers points out so clearly, is they are no longer young. And they
sorry,
they
Scott Cochran.
Yeah.
He's an old guy now, Scott. You're an old guy. Get used to it.
Yeah, that's
You'll
right.
get your knees replaced here and soon, so just get used to it, buddy. We're still going to love you, but go ahead.
Yes, but that's the problem. So and they understand it better than anyone. That's interesting, is watching these new companies come together. Is their average workforce is in between 20 and 30, whereas ours is probably between 40, 50, 60 or something like that. We have to get those young people in. The other thing that came flying out of nowhere, it wasn't really nowhere, I guess, but was at Monday Alive, we were talking about how to get the people, was this model. It's called, I'll send you guys the links after. It's called bmsintegrator.com. And when you click on that, you can hire people to help you with your integration project by the hour. And they're anywhere in the world. So if you want to do some Niagara programming, or you want to do something. So it's kind of an interest. It's a pay-as-you-go kind of thing. So that's sort of the first time that IoT model has hit us on the nose, and I think we're going to see more of that. I think that's going to help your businesses, because where the heck do I get an old with kind of a controller that I can't get anymore, because I've got 1,000 of them and I need 10 more of them, and it makes sense to just continue that network to solve the problem. And some of these people are not necessarily young. That was another amazing point that was made at Monday Alive. I believe Mark brought it up, but I may be crediting it to the wrong person. But the point he brought up, that it wasn't just the younger people we were chasing to put back into our industry. It's the people who have been displaced and have basically, COVID has taken their jobs physically away from them. Where if they were in a support project, maybe just even as running, working a server in a restaurant or something like that, they now have to kind of reconsider their career, and likely their best option is to basically move their career online. And so they need to be educated, they need to be, but they've got, you know, most of the components of what they need to change themselves around. So yeah, not saying that very well, but I think you can understand that it's not just these young people who need to learn our industry. We have a great opportunity to retrain people who actually know what buildings physically are and have actually been in buildings and kind of wondered how that all worked. And so they can kind of follow out that interest. And they have the social skills, they have the ability to get online and teach themselves. And so that's a whole new workforce we have to reach out to.
Well, Ken, Ken Sinclair, and Kenny, I'll let you have the final question. But another article that was in this month's episode of AutomatedBuildings.com was Scott Cochran and Jim Young talking about the future of conferences. Can you give our audience a feel for what conclusions were drawn there?
Yeah, that was a great article, and I was really pleased to have that. It's I don't know. I think that there's a lot of reality inside of it, and the conference is definitely going to change. Even with vaccination, I think there's going to be at least some reluctance for folks to move back to the concentrations, and the large conferences, I think, are going to struggle to try and get those amounts of people back. The whole idea of local conferences, the idea with, I think Scott Cochran is kind of pushing that really well, and the hybrid one that actually has both a real and a virtual side are the evolution that we're heading towards. But as you read through that, you can see that and watch Jim Young's interview, which is a part of that. There's just some, I think, incredibly important messaging for the industry in what's going to happen with conferences. So that sort of suggests to me that it's more important. Some of the stuff that we're doing, our Monday Alive, that's kind of picked up from the collaboratory. We have most of the same people that usually come together and discuss at the collaboratory are involved in the Monday Alive movement. So we're starting to see a virtualization of what it is we used to do.
It is a great article. I agree. Jim Young and Howard Berger and Lisa Woods and Sharon Stone have an interview. I think it's 29 minutes. If you can't do anything or invest a whole lot of time, if you watch a 29-minute video, they tell the whole story.
Yeah.
And each one has a very specific role. Jim, and they were on the hunt to survey. They went through the trauma down in Miami. Then they went to San Antonio. Then they went to here, and they wound up, their normal show strength. I think is they mentioned that they were expecting 750, but it's just to your point about the spirit and about overcoming and innovating and then coming together, despite all the handicaps and all the setbacks and pushback, from the concerns of COVID, they still put it on, and they did it in the safest possible manner you can do inside a building. And if you really and truly look at and understand the nature of COVID and viruses, and you can put into place the technologies we had available, they created the safest environment that you could have. People walked through different machines and it registered. This thing was spooky. It did your blood pressure, your oxygen level, and then it tells you, did a thermal reading to see whether or not you were over temperature in terms of COVID. And so they put all these things in it. They had robots with UV going through the show floor, indicating that we do have very tangible, ionization. They talk about, how you can purify air, cost effectively, and put on shows and put them on in such a manner. Like we have in Pittsburgh, January 4th, the governor lifted the sanctions, the in-place sanctions. We were not allowed to really congregate. It was very, I think I don't know how many things they enforced or whatever, but they were actually, putting $50 fines and $350 fines if you didn't comply with the government's mandate. But, they're now beginning all the RV shows and all the things that happen this time of year are actually coming back into Pittsburgh, and they're actually putting them on at that 50% capacity, and all the other COVID measures still have to be complied with. You basically call in and organize it by the hour that you wanted to visit the RV show, and they give you an hour, and once it was saturated, you bumped in the next hour. So we're evolving, we're innovating, we're not staying completely at rest, and there's technologies that you can put into effect that will give you the greatest assurance of having a safe environment. And I don't think those measures are ever going to go away. In fact, I think they're going to be incorporated into ASHRAE's, standards. I think you can see BOMA people, you can see all the big players in the industry are going to constantly announce and basically show off to attract people to come to their hotel versus maybe their competitors, is because they've got the best, safest bio environment that money can buy, the technology can provide.
Very well said, Kenny. Final question for you, Ken Smyers.
Well, Ken, I thought that you did a great job, and I applaud your efforts. Let's just talk real quickly about February. You said working together separately. You had some really neat stuff. You talked about one of your old articles that you kind of predicted the future. Eric always gives you credit for being Nostradamus, but didn't you have an article that kind of licked this thing in the bud 6 years ago or so?
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I was Googling. When I start writing, I usually start Googling the subject matter, and it always amazes me how often some of it comes back up on automated buildings. But yeah, this was something 6 years ago. I wrote something called Working Together Separately, which I don't know. It was just the whole idea of what was actually happening. Again, all COVID has really done has made this happen quicker. It's been an accelerator. The other one I'm glad I just took a look at that, because it reminds me of the other one we haven't mentioned is the new Connections magazine for Project Haystack is out, and lo and behold, their theme is making it all work together. And so I've taken a literary license and added making it all work together apart. And if you kind of think of the whole haystack movement, you can kind of roll your eyes around it and think about how that happened. We first came together in Chattanooga, and there was, and anytime you go to one of those haystack events, there's people from all over the world, and they're up there talking, on no, that line of code's not right, this line, and they basically are definitely working on haystack apart together to create a standard. And I actually link to, in this article that I'm writing, link to the Internet of Things, which is a group that I belong to. And what they're pointing out is that we've kind of gone through the whole, the last decade, the top players, on Airbnb, and mobility was Uber, and music, Spotify, data storage was Azure, Amazon, AirCloud. But the next one will be clouded by the core addressability of the ecosystems built on their unique identifiers of people's objects and events. So this whole virtualization of people and our relationships and events is kind of getting overlaid on, like, so Airbnb and Uber and all that, that's all history now. We're building on that history. The IT people are anyway. So anyway, that's kind of interesting thing. So we chat a little bit about that and where that's all going. Another one that was that kind of made me smile is they spun. This actually came out of Monday Alive as well. They spun the concept. I think that was Roger Woodward out of UK, spun the concept of a 15-minute city. And the idea there is that in London, they're building a piece of London that is what they call a 15-minute city. The idea is you can walk anywhere in this city area in 15 minutes. And of course, I have lived in a 15-minute city for the last 30 years, living together with the industry and living apart, working together with the industry and living apart on the island. And understand the concepts of living where you play and the advantages of being able to walk to your food supply, know the name of the farms supplying those markets. And I live in a very, very close to carbon-free environment and operate a home office for 45 years. And did I do that because I saw COVID coming? No, it was just simply a lifestyle choice. So I think that's an interesting segue in the fact that for these young folks, that's the thing that's driving them is the lifestyle choice. If they like to surf, if they like to ski, they want to do their work from the ski hill. They don't want to be in the center of a large city. So we've kind of got a big trend inside of
Another trend.
other trends. Yeah.
Notre Dame. Ken Sinclair making a prediction. Ken, listen, you know what? I hate to be the guy to point this out. You're talking about living in a carbon-free environment, man. We see the hole in the ozone right behind you, man. That's on you, man. That's not on us. So, hey, ladies and gentlemen, the Automated Buildings, the January issue is out, automatedbuildings.com. Ken Sinclair, thanks for being with us. Hey, if you want more Ken Sinclair, I think you can find it virtually every Monday at mondayalive.com. Check that out as well. And Ken, as always, we appreciate you, brother.
Okay.
Take care, Ken. Thank you.
Thanks, then. Thanks, guys.
Man, Ken Smyers, man, talking to Ken Sinclair at the first of the month, it makes me feel somewhat normal again. Good stuff as usual from Ken.
Yeah, he does a lot of homework. He does a lot of research and connecting the important thought people in the industry, and one easy to read and so a great edition, a lot of great articles. I mean, really good stuff. And then he's working already real hard on his February release editorial that's kind of cool. But I think the COVIDization, we all went through that. We all had some sort of we all marked the calendar with that. We all will remember not having graduations and not having weddings and just the extraordinary truncation of our socialization. It's a strange times, but I think we're coming out of it.
You just missed that thing because you got these two beautiful daughters, and weddings are not cheap. I mean, God, you could have almost got through the COVID thing if it just happened a couple of years before, right?
Eric, strong question.
I'm thinking like a dad who's got two daughters. So, but there you go. Well, all right, Kenny Smyers, man, we'll be back next week, and with that. Again, thanks to our guest this week, Ken Sinclair, automatedbuildings.com. Be sure to check that episode out. Remember, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant, stay safe, and tell a friend about Control Trends if you want to.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers. And that's a wrap. Hang on. Say, go Steelers.
Well, of course. Go Steelers. That's what they got their hands full. They're playing Cleveland. KC.